It's Game 3 of a 3-game set between the HBT HiToms and Boone Bigfoots here at historic Finch Field. The HiToms currently level the series at 1-1 between these two sides. We welcome you to historic Finch Field. AJ Myers, Adam Oppenheim on hand for you today for the start of the second half of the season. Yesterday was a thrilling game between these two teams. Adam, extra innings, the HiToms just fell 7-6.
Yeah, it was a really good effort, and the HiToms defensively were really great, and that's definitely a positive sign because you want to see them not losing games on the offensive side.
So on the bump tonight for the HiToms will be Luke Barrow. He's been pretty solid for the HiToms this year in the appearances he's made. And for the Bigfoots, it's a similar lineup to what we've seen from them the past 2 days. Of course, yesterday they did have quite a few rotations because of whether or not that game was significant or not. So the 1-2-3 starting things off for Boone will be Will Darrell, then it'll be Kai Wagner, and then Jalen Vasquez will be in the 3 spot. And then Nadir Lewis, if we get to him in this top of the first, will be hitting cleanup. Talked a lot about him yesterday and how he has now a 17-game hitting streak. That was in jeopardy yesterday, but in his final plate appearance, he was able to get a base hit. So the HiToms will once again need to be watchful of him in what is a really, really hot High Point-Thomasville Finch Field. It's about 90 degrees, but I don't know about you, Adam. It feels like it's 100, 120.
Yeah, it's so humid out right now, and it's the hottest, not sure about day, but game we've played here at historic Finch Field for sure. And on the field, it feels probably 10 degrees hotter just because of the dirt. Honestly, turf is hot as well, so you're really in a lose-lose situation. So anytime you're on a baseball field, it feels a little bit hotter.
So it's Will Darrell to start things off. He is DHing tonight for the Bigfoots. And once again, it's Luke Barrow throwing the pitches to him. So 5-0-4, and we are ready to go from Finch Field. Behind the plate for the HiToms tonight is Mike Gilliams as a swing and a miss from Darrell. The rest of that HiToms defensive lineup goes as following. Starting in the outfield from left to right, it's Don Ploley, then it's Kane Kepley in center field, and then out in right field, it's Austin Deering. In the infield from left to right, it's Will Verdung, J.D. Suarez at shortstop, Jake Coonan over at second base, and then at first base, just like last night, is Jack Spike. 0-1 from Barrow is put in just on the outside, so it brings the count to 1-1.
It's important to note that, once again, due to technical difficulties, this will be a radio-only broadcast. So we do apologize for the technical difficulties.
Barrow will put in a 1-1 with no outs here in the top of the first as that one gets away from Gilliam. So it goes for a ball and hits the backstop. So it brings the count to 2-1. Just starting things off here between the Bigfoots and HiToms. Barrow sets, puts in the 2-1. That one's hit up in the air. Barrow's looks as though he has a read on it. So does Will Verdung into the sun, and he makes the grab. I'm sure with that bright sun, that was not the easiest catch for Will Verdung, but he's able to do it on the left field line.
Well, we're going to see there's going to be some big play in this game where it's going to be a fly ball or a pop-out that the defensive player, you just need a catch. It's as simple as that. I know the sun's tough, but got to use your hat, obviously, and then your glove to shield from the sun and try to make a catch, and obviously with some sunglasses all along the outfield for both teams.
So next up for the Bigfoots is Kai Wagner. Barrow's first delivery to him is a swing and a miss from Wagner, so Bigfoots players swinging early here in their at-bats. Yesterday, Kai had a tough day. He only had one base hit. Outside of that, he either flew out or struck out, so he'll be looking for some better luck here at Finch Field. Barrow fires in the 1-0. Another swing and a miss from Kai. And it looks like that one did just touch his bat, but either way, it's an 0-2 count. And Mike Gilliams looks a little shooken up there. Not sure if he took a lick from the bat or the ball. Gilliams was not behind the plate for the HiToms yesterday. It was Dario Astudillo, but as we've seen throughout the year, head coach Sean Stevens likes to rotate at that position. He's got plenty of guys to pick from, so he goes with Gilliams today. Wagner's back in the box. He's ready to go. So too is Barrow. Barrow gets the sign from Gilliams. Kicks his leg, fires in the pitch. Swing and a miss from Kai Wagner. So there's 2 outs here in the top of the first for the Bigfoots, and a good start from Luke Barrow.
Yeah, and Luke Barrow really has been pretty great this year for the HiToms, especially in the starting position. In fact, the record doesn't exactly indicate how good he's been, 0-2, but he had a loss in a game against the Toms where he threw 5 innings and allowed 2 runs on 2 hits, which were 2 solo home runs by the same player.
So it's Jalen Vasquez now up. He was in the 3-hole yesterday for the Bigfoots in the same spot today. He made a few great plays over at shortstop. And Barrow's first delivery to him is called for a strike. Barrow gets ready for the 1-0. He punches it in, and it's right on the outside. Nearly hit Vasquez, but he just gets away from it. So it's a 1-1 count with 2 outs here in the top of the first. Barrow gets ready for the 1-1 offering. That one's just high. Gilliams does a good job of getting a glove on it. So it will be a 2-1 look here from Vasquez. Barrow delivers. Swing and a miss by Jalen Vasquez. And the count is level at 2 with 2 outs here in the top of the first in a scoreless game. On the year, Luke Barrow has an ERA sitting around 5. He's made 5 appearances, 3 of those starts. And his last appearance was in the exhibition game versus Chinese Taipei, where he looked pretty strong. As Vasquez golfs one out into center field. Kane Kepley's onto it. He's right near the hill, and he makes the grab for the 3rd out. So the Bigfoots go 1-2-3. The HiToms bats will be up in the bottom of the first. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back to historic Finch Field. Kane Kepley will get things underway for the HiToms in the bottom of the first. And it's Sean Duffy dealing for the Bigfoots as his first one goes for a strike. So 0-1 count for Kane Kepley, who Adam, I think this morning we were still talking about the catch he made out in center field as he puts a ball towards center field. Vasquez is looking up onto it. He punches his glove and makes the grab for the first out. But as I was alluding to, Adam, the catch Kane Kepley made yesterday, we were still talking about this morning.
Yeah, that was a spectacular catch all the way from center field if you missed it, all the way into the right center gap to just nab it off the turf and Boone. And he also had a 2 RBI triple off the wall, but he has been fantastic for the HiToms. He's known for getting on base, but he's been showing the power.
So it's Will Verdung now batting for the HiToms. Sean Duffy's a local guy. He goes to High Point. He made 23 appearances in this recent season for the High Point Panthers as he puts one in the dirt. So it's a 2-0 count for Will Verdung. Just wrapped up his junior year at High Point. Next one to Verdung hits him on the back, so the HiToms have one aboard. So a bit of an uneasy start for Sean Duffy.
Yeah, and Will Verdung's been great against Boone, especially on the road. 2 of his 3 home runs have come in Boone, but he's just been so consistent the entire season, and someone who's been able to reach base, nearly half the time.
In 6 starts Sean Duffy made at High Point this year. He went 0-5 as he puts one on the outside for Juan Correa. And had an ERA of just near 10, so he'll probably be looking to get that down here in the summer ball. He's behind 1-0 on Juan Correa as Correa chops that one foul towards third base. This year for Boone, he's made 4 appearances. And an ERA sitting at 9, so similar to what we saw from him in his junior year at High Point. As he throws back over to first, it's Will Verdung at first base. The defense for the Bigfoots, starting in the outfield from left to right, is Nadir Lewis. He moves over to left field. Max Wellers in center field. Tyson Bass, who did not start yesterday, is out in left. And then the infield from left to right, Carlos Amasquita. And then at shortstop is Jalen Vasquez. Kai Wagner at second, and then Caden Wagner over at first base as Will Verdung batting for the HiToms in a scoreless game. Will Verdung at first and Juan Correa batting in a scoreless game as Duffy deals to Correa, check swing from him, and it goes for a ball.
And Juan Correa also recently committed to UNC Charlotte. Recently, this past season, played at College of Central Florida. So, congratulations to Juan Correa.
As he gets contact on that one, it's shot right up in the air. The second baseman, Kai Wagner's looking up into the sun, and he makes the grab for the second out. So that's 2 balls hit up in the infield. First one by Kane Kepley, and then Juan Correa has a similar shot in the air. So it's the cleanup man, Austin Deering. He's moved up in the lineup a bit. He's in the cleanup spot today. Deering got walked a bunch yesterday. It was a problem for the Bigfoots as Duffy puts that one on the outside. But Duffy hasn't quite found a strike zone yet. I think he's got his defense to thank for the outs. Both pop-ups in the infield. With one on, the 1-0's on the way, and it's in a similar spot on the outside. So 2-0 the count with 2 outs here in the bottom of the first for the HiToms. Duffy takes a deep breath, kicks his leg, puts in the 2-0, and again it's on the outside, so it was a 3-0 count for Austin Deering, who, as I alluded to yesterday, got walked on 3 occasions. He's in a hitter's count at 3-0. That one goes low for a ball, so HiToms, as they've done all year, they get men in scoring position with 2 outs and have 2 on base. It's Will Verdung over at second and Austin Deering at first.
We also do apologize with first base not working on our score bug, but currently it is first and second, 2 outs, and we'll make sure to remind everyone throughout the radio call for today's game.
So Jack Spike playing first base today, batting 5th for the HiToms, goes to work with 2 outs and 2 on. Duffy looks back over to second. It's Juan Correa there. He puts in the pitch, called for a strike. So Spike goes behind 0-1. 0-1's put in from Duffy, and it's fouled back from Jack Spike. So it's an 0-2 count for him with 2 outs. Catching tonight for the Bigfoots is Blake Hale. That's different from Rogue Wallace, who was there yesterday, as both runners were able to advance on that pitch from Duffy. So Austin Deering's over at second, and Juan Correa is now at third with 2 outs in a scoreless bottom of the first for the HiToms. So with 2 on, 2 outs, 1-2 count for Jack Spike. The pitch from Duffy is hit foul out towards right field. So a nice at-bat here from Jack Spike. Duffy goes to work on Spike. Spike puts that one out to left field. Tyson Bass is running onto it. He makes the grab for the 3rd out, so the HiToms leave 2 on base. The Bigfoots bats will be back up in the 2nd. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Lewis, not only does he like to hit, but he also likes to run the bases. So Barrow's going to need to keep a close eye on him as he throws right back to Jack Spike. Lewis comfortably safe over at first. Barrow looks on. Nods his head to Gilliams. Delivers the pitch, and it's put high for a ball.
Now batting for the Bigfoots, the first baseman, Caden Wagner.
Yesterday, Caden Wagner struck out on 3 occasions. He did have an RBI back in the first inning, but outside of that, HiToms kept him at bay as he looks at that one, called for a strike. Brings the count to 1-2. Barrow squats down, takes a long look at his catcher Gilliams. As Gilliams quickly throws back to Lewis at first. Lewis had to be alert to run back and slide in at first safe. Still no outs for the Bigfoots in this top of the second. In the start of the second half of the season here in the Coastal Plain League, both of these teams will be hoping to climb up the standings. Pitch on the way. Nadir Lewis is running. Gilliams is unable to throw over as he fumbles the pitch from Barrow. So Nadir Lewis gets over to second, and I'm sure he'll be looking to get over to third with no outs here in the top of the second. So Lewis again taking a big lead. Both J.D. Suarez and Jake Coonan keeping a watchful eye on him as Barrow looks back at Lewis. He delivers to Wagner. It's in the dirt again, and Lewis is able to get all the way over to third. And Adam, that is what he loves to do, just run the base pads.
Yeah, and that's Boone's philosophy. They get on base, try to steal bases, and they've seen it work a lot against the HiToms and just taking advantage of pitches out of the zone that are harder to throw down to the bases and just the pop time by the catcher.
So it's a 3-1 count for Caden Wagner with no outs. Nadir Lewis over at third. Barrow deals to Wagner. It's hit into the infield. J.D. Suarez gets a glove on it to retire Caden Wagner, and Nadir Lewis stays put at third base.
What a smart play, though, by Lewis to not just sprint home thinking that was going to go up the middle, because he easily could have gotten doubled off. And instead, he smartly stays at third on a soft liner to Suarez.
So it's Tyson Batts now for the Bigfoots, who yesterday, Adam, didn't start, but once the game came into extra innings, the Bigfoots subbed him in, and he made an impact.
Yeah, first pitch he saw was a single to set up the bases loaded with no outs, where the HiToms proceed to get 2 outs and then give up the game-winning hit. So close to getting out of that jam in the bottom of the 10th yesterday.
Barrow delivers to Bass. He swings and misses with 1 out, and Nadir Lewis over at third base in a scoreless top of the second between the Bigfoots and HiToms. Barrow sets, kicks his leg, puts in the pitch. Another swing and a miss by Bass. So Bass is behind 0-2. Waiting in the wings is Max Weller for the Bigfoots. The 0-2 is on the outside, gets away from Gilliams, and that means Nadir Lewis can score. Mike Gilliams couldn't get a glove on that one, and the Bigfoots go up 1-0 here in the top of the second.
And that's something you don't want to see. You allow the leadoff walk, fine. But then you allow, a couple stolen bases and a wild pitch, and no hit even brings in Nadir Lewis. Not even a sacrifice fly. It's the HiToms beating themselves.
So it's a 1-2 count now for Tyson Bass. And a now 1-0 game here in the top of the second. Barrow looks on. Puts in the 0-2. It's hit on into center field. Kane Kepley's running back onto it. So is Don Pololi. It is going to be caught by Kane Kepley on the hill for the second out.
I will say, Kane Kepley really knows how to move on the hill because he stops right at the beginning, looks at where the ball is, and then takes a couple steps up instead of just sprinting right up the hill looking at the ball, which would result in you tripping most of the time.
It was good communication there by Kepley and Pololi because they were both running up the hill right in front of the Finch Field scoreboard. And Kane Kepley called off Pololi to make the grab. So now it's Max Weller up with 2 outs, and he puts one foul into right field.
We once again do apologize. Game is not being televised on Flow Sports due to technical difficulties, so it will be a radio call for the HiToms today.
Barrow kicks, and the 2-out pitch is put towards J.D. Suarez. He collects, throws over to first, and it is in time. So 3 outs there for the HiToms, but the Bigfoots are able to put a run on the board in the form of Nadir Lewis. The bats will be back up for the Tommies in the bottom of the second. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to historic Finch Field. J.D. Suarez will start things off for the HiToms in the bottom of the second inning. HiToms down 1-0 after Nadir Lewis was able to get home. So J.D. Suarez, who's at shortstop today, first pitch gets called for a strike. Yesterday, J.D. was batting second, and he was able to reach base on one occasion. He was walked. Outside of that, he also got an RBI in the fourth as he puts one in foul territory, out of play. So as I was alluding to, he got the RBI in the fourth inning, then he flew out and grounded out. Next one from Duffy is putting on the outside for a ball. J.D. Suarez puts another one out into the air. Amasquita's looking onto it, so is Vasquez, and Vasquez is able to collect it for the first out in the bottom of the second. Brings up Don Pololi, who didn't start yesterday, but then subbed in for Rowan Watt midway through the game.
Now up to the
After Paoli will be Mike Gilliams and then Jake Coonan to round off the HiToms batting order as Paoli looks at one going on the outside for a ball. Here in the bottom of the second, HiToms 0, Bigfoots 1 with 1 out. Duffy sets and deals to Paoli. Another one on the outside for a ball. Paoli looks at one that's called for a strike. Puts the count at 2-1. The 2-1 put in from Duffy, and it's a swing and a miss by Don Paoli, so count is even at 2. On the year, Don Paoli's made 10 appearances, has a batting average of 160. He's been walked 12 times and has 1 RBI and home run. And another one on the outside from Duffy that Blake Hale did a good job getting in front of, so it's a full count now with 1 out.
Yeah, and he had his second extra base hit yesterday. Pinch hitting, had a double in his first at-bat.
Payoff pitch from Duffy is high, so Don Paoli gets walked for the 13th time in the CPL this year. Brings up the catcher, Mike Gilliams.
Now up to the plate for your HiToms. Catching tonight, number 14, Mike Gilliams.
So Don Paoli's over at first base with 1 out. And Sean Duffy on the bump for the Bigfoots. He drills one low for a ball. Duffy kicks, puts in the pitch, and it's hit on but foul from Gilliams. Duffy takes a quick look over at first. Sets, delivers to Gilliams. That one goes low for a ball. Puts the count at 2-1. HiToms today rocking the red top with gray pants and blue socks. As Duffy puts another one in for Gilliams. It's out to left field. Lewis is looking onto it. He makes the grab for the second out.
And that was just off the end of the bat from Gilliams. Otherwise, that would have been over the left field wall if that was barreled up. Just hits the end of the bat. And it's a line drive over to Nadir Lewis in left field.
Now it's Jake Coonan for the Tommies. He got a base hit yesterday. He goes to work with 2 outs. And Don Paoli over at first base as Duffy deals to Coonan. It's on the outside for a ball. Duffy puts the 1-0 in, and it's on the outside for another ball. Count sets to 2-0 with 2 outs. Don Paoli over at first. On the year, Jake Coonan batting at .241 with 15 RBIs and 2 extra base hits. He looks at another one for a ball, so he's ahead 3-0. A nod from Duffy. He deals. Coonan showed bunt. Either way, he gets walked. So 2 aboard with 2 outs for the HiToms in the top of the order, and Kane Kepley coming up.
Not exactly the start that Duffy wanted. He's walked 3 and hit 1, and the HiToms are getting on base without even putting the ball in play half the time.
Kane Kepley flew out over to shortstop. It was a laser right to Jalen Vasquez. As Kepley gets out of the way of that one for a ball. So Duffy still struggling to find a strike zone. Duffy deals to Kepley, and it's low for another ball. Duffy's yet to strike out a batter. All the outs have come via the help of his defense. He looks over at second base. It's Don Paoli occupying it. The delivery to Kepley's on the outside. Now there's going to be a meeting between Blake Hall and Sean Duffy, who is struggling here in the second inning. He's thrown 17 pitches thus far. Only a full inning of work. He needs one more out, and the HiToms would once again leave men stranded on base. They left 2 on last time in the first. Coonan's in a 3-0 hitters count, and he looks at one called for a strike. Rather, Kepley looks at one called for a strike. Jay Coonan over at first. Don Pololi at second. Duffy looks at Pololi, now deals to Kepley. He puts it in play over to Vasquez. Vasquez throws over to first for the out. So that will end the second inning. The HiToms once again leave men stranded on base. It's a 1-0 game. We'll head to the third. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here at historic Finch Field, entering the third inning of play. It's the Bigfoots 1, the HiToms 0. It's the bottom of the order for the Bigfoots. Blake Hale will get things going for Boone. And Luke Barrow still on the bump for the Tommies. He deals to Hale just on the outside, collected by Gilliams for a ball. Blake Hale out of Murray State. His next pitch from Barrow is hit foul into the Boone dugout. So it'll be a 1-1 count for Blake Hale. Barrow's next one to Hale is called down the middle for a strike. Brings the count to 1-2 on the catcher, Blake Hale. Barrow gets ready for his next pitch. He tosses it in just on the outside for a ball. So it's a 2-2 count now with no outs, just starting the third inning here in High Point, Thomasville. Barrow deals in the 2-2, and Hale had to get out of the way. Well, that one was going to hit his helmet. He ducks out of the way, so it's a full count with no outs for Blake Hale. Be a payoff pitch now from Barrow, and it's hit foul by Hale. So Hale takes a quick step out of the batter's box. And he's now ready to go in a full count with no outs here in the top of the third. Barrow gets the okay from Gilliams. Puts in the 3-2, and it's way on the outside. It gets away from Gilliams, hits the backstop, and Blake Hale's aboard at first base. So this inning starting off just as the previous one did, with a runner aboard via a walk.
Now to the plate for the Boone Bigfoots, the third baseman, Carlos Amasquita.
So it's Carlos Amasquita now for the Bigfoots in the bottom of the order. He's in the 9-hole.
But he's not really a 9-hole hitter because he's been hitting leadoff for the Bigfoots most of the year.
Amasquita was another one of those who subbed in yesterday in extra innings. As Barrow deals to Amasquita, he puts it foul over the Bigfoot's dugout in left field. Amasquita back in the batter's box, ready to go in a 0-1 count with no outs, and Blake Hale over at first. Jack Spike keeping an eye on him. Barrow nods, kicks and delivers. It's low for a ball, so 1-1 count now for Carlos Amasquita. Barrow's ready to go for the 1-1. He tosses it in, and it gets away from Gilliams. He's had a hard time with that. No throw over to second as Blake Hale is able to get over to second.
All of Boone just has such a big secondary, so if the ball gets away from Gilliams just a little bit, they're going to be able to take that extra base, and that's what Hale does there.
Well, that's how the Bigfoots win games, it seems like. Good base running. So Blake Hale's over at second, no outs. And Carlos Amasquita up to bat for the Bigfoots. Barrow takes a look at Hale. Now looks back over to Amasquita. He deals to him. It's on the outside for yet another ball. On the year, Amasquita batting at .293. So as you were saying, Adam, he's not a bottom part of the order kind of hitter. He's got 9 RBIs and has been walked 14 times. Barrow takes a few looks at second. Now puts it into Amasquita. It's low for another ball. So 2 on now for the Bigfoots in this top of the third inning.
And it makes sense that they have Amasquita there, too, because Darrell played fantastic yesterday. So you have Amasquita there, who usually hits leadoff, just drop him down to 9, and then you have Amasquita, who's practically the 1, and then you just got the middle of your lineup up.
So there'll be a quick meeting on the mound for Luke Barrow, who's been struggling as of late here in this third inning. He's walked the first 2 batters he's seen. And he'll face Will Darrell. So meeting's over. It was a meeting between Gilliams, Barrow. J.D. Suarez was also involved in that, and I'm sure they're probably talking about Blake Hale at second base, who I'm sure will be looking to move over to third, as we know Carlos Amasquita likes to run the base pads as well. He has 10 stolen bases this year in the CPL. So Will Darrell will go to work with no outs and 2 on for the Bigfoots. Barrow squats down, looks over at second, puts in the first pitch for Darrell, and it shoots low for a ball. So a 1-0 count for Darrell. Blake Hale over at second, Carlos Amasquita at first with no outs. Barrow fires in the 1-0, again on the outs. Rather, that one was called for a strike. It looked like it was shooting to the outside, but our umpire deeming it a strike. So it's a 1-1 count now for Will Darrell, who put one in the hands of Jake Coonan his last time up in the first inning. Barrow looks over at second. Puts in the pitch for Darrell. It's over on the outside. Gilliam's able to get to it. So a 2-1 count now for Will Darrell with no outs, 2 on for the Bigfoots in this top of the third. HiToms in a bit of a jam here in the third.
So fielder's choice right now would be if they get one out, it's one out. Looks like if they go to tag at second, it'd be fielder's choice.
Barrow delivers. It's hit on by Darrell. Up in the air. As Don Paloli's got a view on it, and he gets the first out for the HiToms. Runners remain at first and second. Brings up the two-hole spot, Kai Wagner.
Second baseman, Kai Wagner.
Kai Wagner struck out his last time up.
So, like, when we have a fielder's choice, I'll show you an example. So, like, if J.D. Suarez were to, like, get a roller and tag second to get the force out from first, that's a fielder's choice. If J.D. Suarez has a if the batter who hits it
Barrow calls time for a moment.
it's normally a fielder's choice.
It's Blake Hale over at second base. Carlos Amasquita at first. Only one out for the HiToms in this third inning. They trail by 1 run. Barrow looks over at second. Delivers the pitch to Wagner, and it's hit foul in the concourse area here at Finch Field. Kai Wagner this year batting .250.
They just announced pitchers and reserves for now. So they have pitchers Kershaw, Steele, Strider, Stroman are the start.
Wagner toggles his bat with his right arm. He's now ready to go. Barrow looks over at second. Takes a few peeks there. Delivers the pitch to Wagner, and it's just high for a ball.
As he should. Are the reserves for position players up? Reserves. Luis Diaz, Smith, Ozzie. We didn't have anybody? That's BS, dude. That's actually BS.
2 on for the Bigfoots now in a 1-0 game. Barrow's keeping a watchful eye at second. As we've said, Boone likes to run the base pads. He delivers the pitch to Wagner. Hit into left field. Over to Austin Deering. Takes one hop. Deering's going to throw over to first. And the bases are now loaded for the Bigfoots with 1 out. And Jalen Vasquez coming up to the plate.
Yeah, and Austin Deering, good deke in right field. And looking like he's going to catch it for a second just to hold up Hale enough. So instead of a run scoring, it's bases loaded with just 1 out.
So it's Jalen Vasquez who flew out to left field his last time up. He's got the bases loaded with 1 out for the Bigfoots. The ever-dangerous Nadir Lewis in the on-deck circle for Boone. Barrow delivers to Vasquez on the outside. Gilliams gets in front of it for a ball. Vasquez ready to go. Barrow places in the 1-0 on the outside again, so it's a 2-0 count now for Jalen Vasquez. Left-handed batter in Vasquez. He's got the bases loaded. He's ahead 2-0. Barrow puts in the pitch. It's hit up in the air by Vasquez. Wilver Dung's running onto it. He's looking up onto it, and he will not be able to make the catch. That one just on the other side of the netting. So good effort there by Wilver Dung, who tried to make the catch but couldn't quite haul it in.
Yeah, and if that netting wasn't there from the Boone dugout extended to the light pole down the third base line in foul territory, he probably can reach over the wall and make the catch, but the net gone his way with it just going over the net.
So it's a 2-1 count now for Jalen Vasquez. Bases still loaded for the Bigfoots. Barrow fires in the pitch, and it is another ball. So 3-1 now.
And you have the 1 out, so you would love a double play to get out of this inning.
And a tricky middle part of the order for Boone. Barrow kicks, delivers the 3-1 on the outside, and it is now a 2-0 game as Blake Hall is able to cruise home, and the base is still loaded for the Bigfoots with Nadir Lewis coming up to bat.
Yeah, not exactly the situation you want to be in if you're a HiToms fan for sure. Nadir Lewis up with the bases loaded and 1 out.
Now batting for Boone, number 23, Nadir Lewis.
got a 17-game hit streak. He was walked in his first at-bat, got all the way around the bases, and was able to score.
The last time Nadir Lewis was held hitless was June 4th against the Zookeepers.
So Lewis, sure he's smiling with the bases loaded. Barrow delivers to him. Oh, it's low for a ball. So I think the HiToms, they'd be pretty pleased if they could get out of this inning just with one run. They have some work to do with only one out and Lewis at bat. Kick from Barrow. He puts it in, and again it's on the outside for a ball. So a 2-0 count now for Nadir Lewis. Fans here at Finch Field nervously watching on with the bases loaded. Carlos Amasquita's at third. He's got a lead. Pitch in from Barrow is low, so now 3-0 count for Nadir Lewis.
Yeah, and you don't want to put him on a free pass. I know it's hard. It's a 17-game hitting streaker walking a batter, but you got to throw strikes here.
Carlos Amasquita at third. Kai Wagner at second. Jalen Vasquez over at first. The pitch from Barrow is called for a strike. That is what he needed to see. So it's a 3-1 count now with one out here in the top of the third. Bases loaded for the Bigfoots. Barrow squats down, looks at Gilliams, gets the sign. Eyes down Lewis. With the bases loaded, puts in the pitch, and he walks him. So yet another walk for Barrow, and it's now a 3-0 game as Nadir Lewis goes over to first, and Carlos Amasquita can score.
And you're in a really tough situation there, especially when you get down 3-0. Then you're forced to battle back. But that's a tough walk to give up to Lewis. There's already been quite a few walks in this game and free passes.
So with the bases still loaded, it's Caden Wagner now up, and Sean Stevens comes out of his dugout as there is an arm going in the HiToms bullpen.
And they're probably going to go to it. That's 4 walks in the inning.
Infield comes in for the HiToms, so this is the end of the day for Barrow, and it looks as though it will be. Not the day he was drawing up, gives up 3 runs. And there'll be a pitching change for the HiToms. We'll be back with all that when we come back. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here at historic Finch Field, the Boone Bigfoots have the bases loaded, and there's a pitching change for the HiToms. It's now Brock Smith, who comes in a tricky spot with the bases loaded, and he's facing Caden Wagner. He does have one out. His first pitch to Wagner is hit foul. So top of the third, bases loaded for the Bigfoots, one out for the HiToms. Caden Wagner up at the plate. Brock Smith now dealing for the Tommies. He places in the pitch for Wagner. Check swing from him. Goes for the ball, so it will be a 1-1 count for Caden Wagner. Smith looks at first. Now puts in the pitch for Wagner. Again on the outside, so 2-1 count for Caden Wagner, who flew out up to shortstop in the glove of J.D. Suarez back in the second inning. Bases loaded for the Bigfoots. Smith's next offering to Wagner is hit into fair territory right to J.D. Suarez, and all the runners remain safe. But good work there from J.D. Suarez to glove that one.
He was so worried about the ball, but they could have got the runner at second. That was Vasquez, who came way off the bag at second base, and is thankful Suarez first turned to third base and then didn't have much of a play at second.
It's Tyson Bass now for the Bigfoots. He goes to work with 2 outs, bases still loaded. Kai Wagner's over at third. Jalen Vasquez is at second, and Nadir Lewis is over at first. Brock Smith got his first out. He needs one more in a 3-0 game. Puts that one high for Tyson Bass. Brock Smith's 1-0 is hit foul by Tyson Bass. So 1-1 count now. Bases loaded for the Bigfoots. Smith taking his time between these pitches. He kicks, deals to Bass. Called for a strike. So 1-2 now on Tyson Bass. Bass gets the call from Gilliams. Looks over at first. From the belt, deals to Bass, and that one's chopped foul. His count remains at 1-2. Bass took a step out of the batter's box. He's back in, ready to go. The 1-2 pitch is hit on by Bass up in the air. Brock Smith says he's got an eye on it. He's still running over. So too is Michael Gilliams, and he's able to make the grab for the third out. So an eventful third out there as Brock Smith was running kind of all over the infield, and then Gilliams came crashing over to get the grab for the third out. So it's only a 3-0 game after the Bigfoots had the bases loaded. HiToms bats will be back up in the bottom of the third. Listen to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here at historic Finch Field, Wilver Dung will start things off for the HiToms. In the bottom of the third, 3-0 game. Sean Duffy remains on the bump for the Bigfoots. He's looked a little shaky. He's allowed 3 walks and he's hit a batter. He's still yet to throw, still yet to have a strikeout as he puts a ball in for Wilver Dung.
But the HiToms still yet to have a hit, so doing something right in that category.
HiToms, the last 2 innings, have left 2 on base. They haven't capitalized as Verdung puts it over to third. Collected by Amasquita. He throws over to Wagner at first for the first out.
Both these teams over the past few games have really looked sharp defensively. I would say excluding Boone's first game of the series, which is on Friday. But the defense has been really good. And we've seen some routine plays where there's been errors that have set up big innings, but both these teams defensively have really gotten it going later on in this series.
Duffy puts one on now for Juan Correa. That is called for a strike. 1 out. Juan Correa at the plate. Nobody on for the Tommies in a 3-0 game. It's the 3rd game in a row between the Bigfoots. Another one's called for a strike, so Correa is behind 0-2. First one on Friday, the HiToms won 12-2, and then last night, Bigfoots won in 10 innings, 7-6. So, winner of the series will be tonight as Juan Correa puts it right in the glove to Duffy. He scampers over to third, tosses it to Caden Wagner for the second out. So, Sean Duffy making quick work of this HiToms order here in the bottom of the third. Bigfoots tonight wearing the green tops with some black shoulder sleeve area, and then Bigfoots in gold lettering, and then gray pants and green socks. So no reversible uniforms tonight, Adam, as we saw last night.
Yeah, that was interesting. Brought me back to some, Park District days. Flip around the jersey, except it was all on one. And it honestly kind of looked cool, except that was very hard to read the numbers.
Tonight you can see those gold numbers quite well as Austin Deering puts it into play, collected by Kai Wagner. He throws over to Caden Wagner, gets the out. So a quick 1-2-3 bottom of the third, and the dangerous Bigfoot bats will be back up in the fourth. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network.
Welcome back to historic Finch Field. Top of the fourth is the Boone Bigfoots lead 3-0 in the top of the fourth. Max Weller first up against Brock Smith, who finished off the top of the third after the HiToms gave up 2 runs, both coming on walks. First pitch is high and inside. Ball 1 to Max Weller. Once again, we do apologize for difficulties with the video on Flow Sports. It'll be a radio call today. 1-0 pitch. It's in for a strike on the outside corner on a fastball. So it's 1-1 on Max Weller. Grounded out to J.D. Suarez in his first at-bat. Third game of a 3-game set between the Bigfoots and the HiToms and the start of the second half of the CPL season. Breaking ball rides away, ball 2. Two and one on Maxweller. Brock Smith, the lefty, delivers, misses outside again on a fastball. It's 3-1, and this is how the HiToms got in a little bit of trouble in the top of the third. AJ.
Yeah, the balls have just been a problem for the HiToms, and with the Boone Bigfoots, you can't put them on base because then they can get to third by stealing so easily.
Here's the 3-1 pitch, swing and a miss, strike 2. A good fastball, low in the zone, and Weller wasn't able to get to it. And the count is full with no outs here in the top of the fourth.
It was back in the first inning. The HiToms went 1-2-3 through the Bigfoot's order, 2 flyouts and a strikeout. They can get back to that. They could definitely beat this Boone side.
Full count pitch catches the outside corner, strike 3. Weller was starting to go to first, but the home plate umpire rung him up. And it's the first strikeout for Brock Smith, and it's out number 1 in the top of the fourth. So it brings up Blake Hale, who started the huge rally in the top of the third with a walk. Brock Smith's first pitch into Hale. It's popped up down the third base line. Will Verdung is onto it, now going into foul territory right near the Boone dugout. He makes the catch. That ball started at the third base bag and took Verdung about halfway between the third base bag and the Boone Bigfoot's dugout. And it's 2 quick outs for Brock Smith.
Both Smith and Verdung have done a good job at tracking this ball in the air and able to get the out. It looks on both occasions looked like they didn't quite know where the ball was, but then they were able to collect it. And that's 2 big outs for the HiToms now.
So Verdung had the pop out in foul territory to start the game and now has one here in the top of the fourth for the second out. And it brings up Carlos Amasquito with the bases empty. And 3-0, Boone still leads High Point Thomasville. First pitch in for a strike. Backdoor breaking ball from Brock Smith. Amasquita, the 9-hitter for Boone. But as we mentioned, it's been their leadoff hitter also during this year as that pitch is low. It's 1-1. And I don't think it's because he's struggling, because he's really still hitting the ball extremely well.
No, as you mentioned, Adam, it's kind of a tactical thing to put him at the bottom and get on base, and then you have that top part of the order for the Bigfoots that can get him around the bases.
1-1 pitch on the outside corner, strike 2. Amasquita with a little knee bend, as a lot of baseball players do when they think it's a little bit outside or low. But it was called a strike. It's 1-2. Amasquita hovering right around 300. Currently at 293, but he has been above that 300 range. Here's the 1-2 pitch. A breaking ball is outside. Ball 2. Brock Smith was starting to hop off the mound. He thought he threw a perfect backdoor breaking ball. Amasquita stood there, and our home plate umpire with no signal as Brock Smith was nearly to the first base line going back to the HiToms dugout.
Yeah, Brock Smith hopped off the pitcher's mound, and then so too did the HiToms infield start to come in, but then they realized, oh, wait, Amasquita's still alive here.
So we'll do another 2-strike pitch. That one rises high. It's a full count with 2 outs here in the top of the fourth. Full count on Carlos Amasquita. Here comes the pitch. It's outside, ball 4. So Amasquita takes a couple of pitches that were close and is down to first. As we flip over the lineup card, and it's the top of the order, and Will Durrell.
Yeah, for the HiToms, if Durrell's able to do some damage, then they'll look back and say, wait, I thought we had Amasquita out. But now with 2 outs, and just like the HiToms, the Boone Bigfoots, they can go to work with 2 outs.
And Will Durrell, he had 3 hits yesterday in his first game in a Bigfoot's uniform. That included a triple and 2 RBIs, a walk, and a stolen base. The lefty takes the first pitch low from the lefty Smith. Breaking ball in the dirt. It's 1-0 on Will Durrell with Carlos Amasquita at first base. 2 outs here in the top of the fourth. 3-0 Boone. Checking on Amasquita at first, back in time. HiToms won the first game of this mini-series on Friday, 12-2. in the bottom of the 8th after Kane Kepley hit a homer to end the game. So the 10-run limit. Here's the next pitch. It's fouled off to the left side. It's 1-1. And then Boone won the game yesterday in 10 innings, 7-6 on a walk-off hit by Boone. Here comes the next pitch. It's outside. It's 2-1. So Will Durrell popped out to third and flew out to left field in his 2 at-bats. 2-1 on Will Durrell. Here's the pitch. Breaking ball way out ahead of it. It's strike 2. For the HiToms, they've let a lot of Boone players get on due to the free pass. 6 walks through not even 4 innings, so not an ideal spot for Sean Stevens' club, but only down the 3 runs. 2-2 on Will Durrell. Amasquita takes off. Here's the pitch. It's outside. Throw down to second. Not in time. It's a full count on Will Durrell, and Carlos Amasquita slides in to second base.
Amasquita was flying over to second. Gilliam saw it, but throw just wasn't on target to J.D. Suarez.
And a good play not to try to hold that down to try to get the strike, because that pitch was far enough outside, so you might as well just take it and try to throw towards second. So it's a full count with Amasquita now in scoring position. Brock Smith will fire. Amasquita takes off. Swing and a miss. Strike 3 to end the inning. Doesn't matter either way, as that retires the side. So Carlos Amasquita gets on, walks, steals second, was trying to steal third, but either way, Will Durrell strikes out swinging to retire the side. We get to the bottom of the 4th. 3-0. Boone still leads the HiToms. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to Finch Field. Bottom of the 4th. HiToms still looking to get on the scoreboard and looking to start here with Jack Spike. Takes a first pitch. It's a breaking ball, and it's a good one from Duffy. Strike 1. So Sean Duffy working into his 4th inning of work. He has looked very sharp so far. Has yet to allow a hit. So that pitch misses. It's 1-1.
Struggled to find the zone at times, but as you said, not allowing a hit yet, so can be pleased with that.
1-1 pitch is hit on the ground to Vasquez, who scoops and sidearm throws over to first for out number 1. So a softly hit grounder, and Jalen Vasquez, he has looked comfortable at shortstop these past couple games. He was just sort of off 1 foot throwing that ball.
He makes that sidearm look so easy. I mean, it looks like he could do that with his eyes closed. It looks very, like, poetic at times, the way he just throws that over.
Yeah, he's also wearing a neon green sleeve on his right arm, so it definitely adds to a little bit of that swagger factor that a lot of the baseball players try to have. And it's a confident sport, no doubt about it. Here's J.D. Suarez. First pitch into Suarez is lined, but right into the glove of Wagner, who was able to take a couple steps right behind second base for the second out of the inning. Wagner was positioned behind the second base bag a little bit to the left, so he ranges to his right a couple steps and makes a catch on a line drive from J.D. Suarez on the first pitch.
And just like the last inning, it's a quick 2 outs for the HiToms. They went 1, 2, 3 in the third. Now the third batter with 2 outs and Don Pololi up.
And interesting about Sean Duffy, you have to strike out a batter. But it doesn't matter because he's getting ground outs, fly outs, pop outs, line outs. Because that first pitch is low to Pololi, ball 1.
There's a 0 on the scoreboard, so obviously he's doing something right.
And that pitch is fouled back. It's 1-1. It's something you don't see too often is a pitcher is dominating but not having a lot of strikeouts. But it's kind of interesting in that way to know location and putting the ball, having the other team put the ball in play softly still works. As that's on the inside corner for strike 2. 1-2 on Don Pololi. Sean Duffy has looked very strong so far. 1-2 pitch to Pololi. Rides outside. It's 2-2. As that pitch is popped out down the third baseline and foul, so it stays 2 strikes on Don Pololi. Two strikes. Here's the pitch to Don Pololi, and the count has gone full. That fastball rides off the outside corner into the right-handed batter's box. Full count on Pololi. Here's Duffy's pitch. It's hit on the ground through the left side. Vasquez with a backhand play on a first on a hop. In time! What a sweet play. Vasquez a backhanded pick. Wagner a pick at first base. And Sean Duffy's through 4 innings, no hit on a terrific play from Jalen Vasquez to Caden Wagner to finish off the bottom of the 4th. We head into the top of the 5th as you're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. It's Kai Wagner to lead off the top of the 5th after a terrific play was made by Jalen Vasquez. It's a complete Sean Duffy's 4 no-hit innings so far. And Brock Smith still on the mound for the Tommies. He's looked strong so far, AJ, especially when he was putting a jam in the top of the 3rd.
Yeah, he was put in a really difficult situation with the bases loaded. Got it out of that pretty well. And then in his last inning work went 1, 2, 3.
First pitch is outside to Wagner. Ball 1. The HiToms looking to eliminate some of those free passes so they can stack up these clean innings and try to get the offense back to where it was about a week ago. They've hit the ball well, but haven't had those giant explosions except on Friday where they scored 12 runs. Ball was fouled off down the third baseline out of play. So it's 1-1 on Kai Wagner. Has struck out and also has a base hit in the game. Here's the 1-1 pitch. It's outside, ball 2. Brock Smith has that left-handed arm delivery where it makes the curveball on lefties seem like it's coming at them inside and then can fly all the way past the outside corner. That's what it did there. 2-1 pitch. That rides inside. That was a heater. And Wagner just gets out of the way. A little backwards bend. It's 3-1. Through one pitch to Wagner. It's taken high, and it's a leadoff walk for the second baseman, Kai Wagner.
Whether it's been Barrow or Smith, the walks have just kind of been the Achilles heel thus far for the HiToms.
The 7th walk of the day.
Here's Jalen Vasquez. That being the 7th free pass allowed by HiToms pitchers already. And it's Vasquez, who flew out deep to center his first plate appearance, walked his second plate appearance. And it's Kai Wagner on first. No outs here in the top of the 5th. Bigfoots still lead 3-0. Here's Brock Smith's first pitch in. It's taken away on a breaking ball in the dirt, ball 1. In fact, Kai Wagner had the only hit in this game so far, as that's low, ball 2. So we've had 1 hit in this game, 3 runs, a lot of walks. And for the start of the second half of the season, both these managers are probably thinking, I know it could be going a bit worse, especially for Boone, but you want strikes thrown, that's for sure. So 2-1 on Jalen Vasquez. Just a check over there on Kai Wagner at first base. Has a pretty sizable lead. And Brock Smith will look him down before firing home, and it's in the dirt again. It's 2-0. So Vasquez adding the count. 2-0. Here's the pitch. It's in for a strike. Inside high corner on a fastball. That rides up and in on the lefty Vasquez. No outs. 2-1 count on Jalen Vasquez with Kai Wagner, the leadoff runner at first, who got walked. Here's the 2-1 pitch. Rather, that's ball 4. That's outside. It was 3 balls. 3-1 count. It's a pitch that's outside in the dirt for the 3rd time in that bat. And it's ball 4. Back-to-back walks allowed by Brock Smith. That's number 8, I believe. AJ?
Yep, walks, and more walks. For the HiToms, you can't win with that kind of trend.
Now batting for the Bigfoots, number 23, Nadir Lewis.
And a man who was walked his last time up, actually both occasions in this game, Nadir Lewis.
And he has that big hitting streak. It's 17 games after yesterday having a base hit. So he has runners on first and second with no outs. And really, the Bigfoots have had runners all over the entire day. And you feel like it's going to come back to hurt the HiToms at some point. Because it's first and second with no outs here in the top of the 5th. Nadir Lewis was the highest average in the Coastal Plain League. Up. Wagner at second, Vasquez at first. First pitch into Lewis. It's a strike on the lower part of the zone and outside away from the barrel of Nadir Lewis. 0-1 on Nadir Lewis, a lefty-lefty matchup. Brock Smith kicks his leg and delivers. It's on the outside corner. It's 0-2 on Nadir Lewis. It's 0-2 on Nadir Lewis. First and second, no outs, top of the 5th with Boone leading 3-0. Brock Smith takes a look back at second. Delivers, pitches outside and past the glove of Gilliams. The runners will each advance a base. It's Wagner over to third, Vasquez to second, and there's 2 runners on, and a 1-2 count on Nadir Lewis. So now you have the open base at first, but it's 1-2 on Nadir Lewis, and at some point you got to keep attacking him to try to get him out, even though he is hitting well over 400 at 434. It's 1-2 on Lewis, second and third, no outs. Here's the pitch, swing and a miss, strike three. Smith blew a fastball by Lewis for an important first out at the top of the fifth.
Important one, and against Nadir Lewis, so that should definitely give Brock Smith some confidence getting that first out.
Now to the plate, number 34, Caden Wagner.
Second strikeout for Brock Smith of the game, fourth total for the HiToms. It's Caden Wagner with second and third, one out. It's first pitch inside on a curveball. So Wagner's over there at third after a walk. Vasquez over at second. Also because of a walk, they moved up on a wild pitch. So two runners still in scoring position. Boone looking to add to the lead. HiToms looking to close the door. Here's the 1-0 pitch. It's fouled straight back. It's 1-1. One and one to Caden Wagner, who's lined out 2 times to J.D. Suarez at shortstop. And here comes the 1-1 to Wagner. It's inside and by Gilliams again on a fastball that got inside. And another run's going to score in the form of Kai Wagner. And it's 4-0 Boone.
For the HiToms, I think they're got to be kicking themselves because it's like easy scoring opportunities for the Bigfoots, and that's how they've gotten their 4 runs in.
And Vasquez slides on down to third. So the infield's now in for the HiToms with 1 out. I believe that counts 2-1 on Caden Wagner. The 2-1 pitch from Smith. It's high and away. It's 3-1 on Caden Wagner. 1 run home in the inning. A couple of walks and 2 wild pitches have scored 1 for Boone, and another stands 90 feet away in Jalen Vasquez. 3-1 on Wagner. Brock Smith sets and delivers his pitch. It's outside, ball 4. It's runners on the corners with 1 out. And we'll see where the HiToms infield goes. They go back to double play depth, do both the shortstop Suarez and the second baseman Coonan. And that's the 3rd walk of the inning and 9th of the game. Is that right, AJ?
Yep. And I think now the 3rd inning where the Bigfoots have gotten the bases loaded.
So it's Tyler Bass, who's hurt the HiToms in other ways this year. And he takes the first pitch and pops it up and out of play into the concourse area here at historic Finch Field on a hot and humid day in the 90s, which it's going to be most of the week. And pretty much 6 out of the next 7 days, the high is going to get above 90. At least what it says right now. Here's the 0-1 pitch. It's low. It's 1-1. And Wagner takes off for second. Throw down. It's not in time. Caden Wagner steals a base, and I'm very interested to see how many steals he has on the year. He just took off when that ball was in the dirt. Michael Gilliams, a good secondary, gets him to second base. In fact, that's his first stolen bag of the year, if that's what it will be ruled. But either way, some great hustle by Caden Wagner. Eliminates the double play, makes the HiToms move the infield in yet again, and it's second and third, 1 out on Bass. Here's the pitch from Brock Smith. Bass fouls it right back off into the netting. 1-2 on Tyler Bass. We had a 2-homer game against the HiToms earlier this year. So Wagner standing on second base. Vasquez off the bag at third. And it's Tyler Bass facing a 1-2 pitch from Brock Smith. Takes a look back at Wagner. Infield in. Here's the 1-2 pitch. It's swung and hit on the ground through the left side. It will score one more. Wagner is going to be held at third base. It will bring in Vasquez on an RBI single from Tyler Bass. It's 5-0 Boone, and the runners are on the corners yet again, still with only one out in the inning. So on a couple of hops, Tyler Bass knocks it in between Suarez and Verdung. Took advantage that the HiToms had the infield in, and no play for either of them as Sean Stevens trots out to the mound. And I think we're probably going to see a pitching change for the HiToms. And we will. As the HiToms go to the pen, we'll tell you about the HiToms' new pitcher and more. As Boone already has 2 runs home in the inning in the top of the 5th. Stay with us here as you're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to historic Finch Field. Max Weller will lead it off against the HiToms' new pitcher. It's Sam DeLella, who played at Elon last season and will be transferring to Longwood. And has his first appearance, I should say, in a HiToms uniform. And he's in a jam. 1st and 3rd, 1 out, with Max Weller at the plate, who's 7th in the Boone lineup. DeLella's first pitch is fouled off and straight back over the netting.
Talked to DeLella earlier today. He said he was excited to be a part of the HiToms organization. I don't know if this is how he envisioned his first outing, kind of in a little bit of a jam, but see what he's got.
In 2022 at Elon, he posted a 3.09 ERA and a 1.76 whip, which is walks, hits per inning pitched. Runner takes off for second. Throw down from Gilliams. It's not in time as it hits Bass and trickles into left field. Bass will advance to third. Wagner's going to come in to score. It's another play that was set up by Bigfoot's aggression as the throw went down to second base. Gilliam's throw went off the leg of Bass, sent into left field, scored Wagner, advanced Bass to third, and it's a 6-0 Bigfoot's lead. So the infield's once again in for the HiToms with 1 out. And DeLella is in a tough situation. Here's the 1-1 pitch. It's high and off the glove of Gilliams. Bass is going to trot in to score. The HiToms have just not been able to catch the ball in this game, and it's 7-0 Boone. Oh, this is a tough one, AJ, to kind of describe.
Yeah, HiToms just struggling here. unfortunately, and you would think maybe it would be great, division rival to take 2 games from them in a 3-game set, but right now things aren't going the Tommies' way.
I mean, this could get out of hand really quickly. The bases are empty, though, as that's fouled off. Strike 2. I'm trying to look for the positive side because the HiToms, they just either they're worried too much about the runners, which
I definitely think that's maybe in their head, given that Boone's so good running the bases. I think they're just so concerned about that, maybe taking their eye off the ball a little.
yeah, and if that was a very unlucky break. That throw hitting Bass a couple plays ago. Breaking ball is taken high. But that's what happens when you're aggressive. You get some of those breaks that if you're not being aggressive and playing passive, you're just forced to hit the ball all over the place instead of trying to take the extra 90 feet. Or 180 in this game. As that's a walk, so that's a 90-foot walk. And down to first goes Max Weller. Of course, every walk is 90 feet.
It's the 10th walk of the game, too. So it's really just been an issue for the HiToms tonight.
So it's Blake Hale up. He's the 8 hitter in this lineup. And Max Weller as at first base. Boone already has 4 in on during the inning on just 1 hit. That was from Tyler Bass. There's only been 2 hits total in this game. I know you're looking at the score. If you just joined us, 7-0. There's been 2 total hits in this game. Both have come from Boone. Both teams have struggled with command. But the HiToms have really been struggling here in the top of the 5th. That one's hit on the ground of Verdongoff. A couple of big hops. Fires over to second for 1. And they'll get the 1 out at second base. So the HiToms finally record out. Last time they recorded out was on the strikeout from Nadir Lewis. So it's been 3 batters ago since the HiToms have recorded out. As that's a fielder's choice as it goes 5-4. Redung to Jake Coonan. It's Carlos Amasquita now up. And the runner on first is Blake Hale. Here's the first pitch. It's hit on the ground. Jake Coonan makes a backhand stop. Flips on to second to get the out. But it doesn't come before some big Boone damage as they score 4 runs in the top of the 5th inning. Extend the lead to 7-0. You're watching HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. It's Mike Gilliams to lead off the bottom of the 5th. And Sean Duffy fires the first pitch in for a strike. Now, the HiToms have reached base 4 times. 3 on a walk, 1 on a hit by pitch, but they have 0 hits in this game. And it's 0-1 to Mike Gilliams. after a really rough inning for the HiToms, where the Boone Bigfoot scored 4 in the top of the 5th on just 1 hit. First pitch to Gilliams, it's lined into left field. It will get down in front. Nadir Lewis, it's a leadoff hit. And now, AJ, I'll ask you, I mean, how can the HiToms turn it around or kind of get better from struggling in the top of the 5th and, the second half of the season, which is really a fresh slate?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing the HiToms could take from the first half was the bats. They were able to hit the ball really well. They got on base. They could drive in runs. The defense was kind of really the problem. The bullpen, the pitching was inconsistent at times.
As Jake Coonan pops it up behind home plate, Hale is looking onto it, and he makes the catch about 7 to 10 steps behind home plate for the first out of the inning. So Jake Coonan pops out to the catcher, Hale.
And just closing my thought, a game like this is a prime example. The HiToms, they can't allow all these pass balls, the walks, because that's how you get easy runs. That's why this is a 7-0 game. It's not a 7-0 game because Boone's hitting the ball out of the park. It's a 7-0 game because off of really HiToms errors or mistakes, either in pass balls or walks.
And Boone's aggressiveness also as well, because they're taking advantage of the HiToms' just ability to not hold runners on, have trouble getting them out on the base pass, as that pitch is outside. So it's 2-0 on Kane Kepley. And that's obviously something that Sean Stevens wants to clean up in the second half, because now you start 0-0 again practically. And it's not the biggest deal if you lose the first half, if you can turn around the second. Next pitch into Kepley, catches the bomb of the zone. It's 2-1 on the leadoff hitter, Kane Kepley. So the HiToms just got their first hit of the game. The former Mike Gilliams. There's a line drive out to left field. First hit that Duffy has allowed. Here's Sean Duffy's next pitch. It's inside, ball 3 on Kane Kepley. And you have a feeling the HiToms bats are going to come around and try to make this close. Maybe not having a super giant inning, but at least threatening to score, and the HiToms just got to find a way to capitalize. 3-1 pitch. It's driven as center field. Weller is going back a couple steps, and he makes the catch. So hit hard off the bat by Kane Kepley. But Weller was positioned well to make the catch out in center field.
Number 2, the third baseman, Will Verdun.
So it's Will Verdun, who's reached on a hit by pitch and is also grounded out in this game. Gilliams still on first base after his leadoff single, but now 2 outs in the inning. And Sean Duffy looking to complete 5. First pitch into Verdun. It's a beauty. Breaking ball in for strike 1.
Yeah, HiToms really haven't got a ball out in the outfield to bounce for them. They've all just been flyouts for that Boone outfield.
And Duffy's been behind in some of these counts, but he's battled back. That's high and tight, ball 1.
He's also got his defense to thank, especially Jalen Vasquez, who's made a few great plays at shortstop.
Yeah, but you give your fielders a chance when the ball is in play, no doubt about it. And Sean Duffy's a prime example of that. Swing and a miss, strike 2 on a breaking ball that bottom fell out of. 1-2 on Will Verdun. Sean Duffy has a 7-0 lead in the bottom of the 5th. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Verdun chased. And that ends the inning. So the HiToms get their first hit of the game in the form of Mike Gilliams, but then it's 3 straight outs to end off the bottom of the 5th. The HiToms still trail by 7 as we end to the top of the 6th inning. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Top of the 6th here at historic Finch Field. Boone came into the top of the 5th having 3 runs. They scored 4 in the top of the 5th. And they've shut out the HiToms so far through 5. It's Will Durrell to lead off the inning. And a swing and a miss, strike 1. On the pitch from Sam DeLella, who finished off the top of the 5th inning. His first appearance for the HiToms. Will be pitching at Longwood next year. But most recently, a right-hand pitcher pitched at Elon University. Here's the next pitch. It's in the dirt. It's 1-1.
Durrell now throwing to Dario Astudillo, who subbed in for Mike Gilliams.
It's 1-1. And DeLello now fires to Astudillo. Picks it out of the dirt, but it's ball 2. It's been a struggle for the HiToms today. Not to get runners on, but to score. And the walks on the pitching side have been absolutely brutal. Swing and a miss, strike 2 on Will Durrell. Kind of takes the energy out of this crowd as well. No doubt about it, as we have a pretty good crowd on hand today. Here in High Point, Thomasville. 2-2 pitch. Just fouled off by Durrell. Just spoiled the pitch. Just sticks his bat out there and just lightly taps it down the first base line and foul. Actually, it ended up near the HiToms dugout, so straight diagonal shot. Not sure how you even got it there. Here's the next pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Sam DeLella has a strikeout to start off the top of the 6th. His first strikeout in a HiToms uniform. Here's Kai Wagner, who's reached 3 times. Rather, 2 times. Base hit and a walk. Here's the first pitch in to Wagner. It's outside, ball 1. Here's the next pitch in to Wagner. It's on the outside corner for a strike. It's 1-1 on Kai Wagner, second in the Boone order today. HiToms won the first game of the series, 12-2 on Friday. Lost the second game yesterday against Boone in 10 innings, 8-7. As that one's on the ground to Jack Spike. DeLella will go over to the bag, but Spike just takes it himself for out number 2. So 3 unassisted on the ground out to Spike. DeLella was hustling over to first base, but Spike opted to take it himself. And the HiToms have 2 outs in the inning. Brings up Jalen Vasquez. DeLella's first pitch in to Vasquez. It's low, ball 1. So Vasquez has walked his last 2 plate appearances. And DeLella's second pitch in. It's hit on the ground to Jake Coonan. Slides over to his left and fires onto first for the 3rd out of the inning. So it's a 1-2-3 inning for the HiToms, and Sam DeLella looks sharp on the mound for his first full inning of work in the top of the 6th. We head to the bottom of the 6th. HiToms looking again at the scoreboard. They still trail 7-0 against the Boone Bigfoots. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to Historic Finch Field. 7-0. The Bigfoots lead the HiToms. It's Juan Correa up for the HiToms against Sean Duffy. Coming into this inning, has thrown 68 pitches, 34 balls, 34 strikes. That's quite interesting. And now here's his 70th pitch in for a strike. 1-1 on Juan Correa. This is his third plate appearance of the game. In the bottom of the sixth. Next pitch, Correa pops it up down the third base line. Amasquita is under it in the coaching box and makes the catch, rather right behind it, for the first out of the inning. So it's a pop out to the third baseman, Carlos Amasquita.
Down to the plate for the HiToms, the right fielder, number 9, Austin Deering.
Austin Deering next up for the HiToms with one out here in the bottom of the sixth. And Sean Duffy still on the mound. It's outside, ball 1.
He's wearing his All-Star game hat.
1-0 pitch to Deering is hit on the ground off a couple of hops to Wagner at second. He waits for it and now fires on to first just in time. Boy, that was a very interesting play by Wagner at second base. Kai Wagner not charging the ball, waiting for it to come to him, and then fired on a sidearm slingshot over to first base for the second out.
29, Jack Spike.
Second straight 4-3 ground out for Austin Deering. Brings up Jack Spike, and there's quickly 2 outs here in the bottom of the sixth. First pitch into strike. Into Spike is a ball. See, it would have worked if it was a strike, AJ, but now that was a ball. Strike to Spike. That pitch is a strike to Spike.
There you go.
It's a
You
swing
can
and a
able to
miss.
say it.
Swing and a miss, strike 1. Yeah, there's only so many times you can say that fast, though. Strike to Spike. Here's the 1-1 delivery. It's another strike into Jack Spike. I'll turn her on a little bit. Don't want to say the same phrase. So it's 1-2 on Jack Spike from Sean Duffy. Here's the pitch. It's lined over the first baseman's head, Wagner, and into right field. It's the second hit for the HiToms in this game. It comes off the bat of the West Carolina product, Jack Spike.
Yeah, you said it, Adam. Second hit of the day for the HiToms. Hits have been hard to come by. But they'll take anything they get to start a rally here in the 6th inning.
And it's Andrew Fernandez now pinch hitting for J.D. Suarez after he was 0 for 2 on the day. But maybe just looking for more reps is head coach Sean Stevens, because it's not like Suarez wasn't hitting the ball hard, especially in his last at-bat. Was the line out towards second.
Yeah, I think that's just a rotation thing, putting Fernandez in.
So Jack Spike's on first after a 2-out single. First pitch to Fernandez is outside, ball 1. Andrew Fernandez also plays that middle infield position, so you'll assume he'll stick at shortstop. Here's the pitch to Fernandez. It's flown out into left field. Nadir Lewis coming on near the third baseline. He makes the catch a couple hundred feet out into left field to retire the side. The HiToms get their second hit of the game, but can't scratch a run across. Still 7-0 Boone as we head into the top of the 7th here at Historic Finch Field. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network.
Back here at historic Finch Field, it's the Boone Bigfoots 7, HBT HiToms 0. Sam DeLella remains on the bump for the Tommies. He's made a strong impression in his first appearance for the HiToms, but now he faces the most dangerous hitter in the CPL, Nadir Lewis, who has a 17-game hit streak, but currently right now it is in jeopardy. He's been walked twice and struck out his last time up, and he looks at a first pitch for a ball there. So DeLella dealing for the Tommies. Pitch there is hit on by Lewis. Austin Deering collects it, throws over to first, and Nadir Lewis' hit streak stays alive.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that ball just went up in the air, and that was incredible. I guess that's what happens when you're a good hitter. You get stuff like that going your way.
And it was exactly like yesterday. This first 3 plate appearances, Lewis did not get any hits. Today, first 3 plate appearances, no hits. Fourth plate appearance, gets a base hit. Exactly what happened last night in Boone.
Except the first 2 at-bats, he didn't really get many strikes to swing at. But, yeah, that's 18 now. Ooh.
So Sam DeLella's got Lewis to worry about over at first, who likes to steal bases, and he's dealing to Caden Wagner. First one to Wagner is high and outside for a ball. Caden Wagner plays his collegiate ball at Northern Colorado. And his brother Kai Wagner, who's also on the team, plays over at Utah. Next one from DeLella is fouled off by Wagner. And Wagner's father also played at Northern Colorado, so Kai not following the family footsteps. As Caden is currently in a 1-1 count as DeLella deals to him low for another ball. At Northern Colorado, Caden had a .304 batting average in 14 starts. Had 8 RBIs and 1 home run. Next one from DeLella is again fouled off from Wagner, so count remains at 1-2. With Nadir Lewis over at first base for the Bigfoots. In a 7-0 game. As DeLella kicks his leg, deals to Wagner, puts it out over to Jake Kuhn, and he tosses it to second base. Andrew Fernandez throws over to first to complete the double play. So 2 outs now for the HiToms in a good defensive work there, getting the ball around the bases.
Yeah, smart play by Jake Kuhn to let that ball hop. Takes a very nice hop off the dirt, and the flip on to Fernandez, and the throw on to first is pretty flawless for the HiToms.
A 4-6-3 double play brings up Tyson Bass for the Bigfoots. Bass got an RBI his last time up. As DeLella deals to him, puts it on the outside for a ball. With 2 outs, Bigfoots lead 7-0. DeLella nods to Ostadillo. Tosses in the delivery, just goes high for a ball. Puts the count at 2-0 with 2 outs. Next one on the way from DeLella. Nearly hits Tyson Bass as it balloons to the outside. So it's a 3-0 count for Tyson Bass now. DeLella puts the glove to his face. Delivers from the belt. And that's called for a strike. So it's a 3-1 count now for Tyson Bass. Oh, deals the 3-1. Hit over Andrew Fernandez's head out into the outfield. Don Poley collects it, but it's a 2-out base hit for Tyson Bass.
And he is 2 out of the 4 hits so far in this game for Boone. And that, the top of the 5th inning just kind of makes it very hard for the HiToms to come back. It really just does, because you give up runs that are not hits, not a giant rally. It's just walks and wild pitches. It's It hurts the mentality of a team.
DeLello will deal to Max Weller now. Puts that one in for a strike. Weller so far today has grounded out, struck out looking, and was walked his last time up. DeLello takes a look over at first. Tyson Bass is there. And with 2 outs, he delivers to Weller. That one's painted on the outside for a ball, so it's a 1-1 count. Another look over to first base from Sam DeLello. Kicks his leg, deals. That one's fouled off by Max Weller. Max Weller out of Campbell University. And a 1-2 count here. DeLello nods. Fires in the pitch. Hit on. Out into right field. Takes a few hops in front of Austin Deering. And it's another 2-out base hit for the Boone Bigfoots. And it puts 2 on now for Boone with Blake Hale stepping up to the plate.
That was a really good piece hitting by Max Weller. It was a breaking ball that was in on his hands. And he shoots it the opposite way in between Spike and Coonan and into right field. And Boone looking to add on to this lead.
With 2 outs, Blake Hale will go to work. He got a base hit his last time up. And in this game, Blake Hale is the winning run because of the 10-run rule. It's 10 after 5. We're currently in the 7th inning as DeLello puts one high.
Of course, the HiToms would get to bat in the bottom of the 7th because they are the home team.
DeLello looks back at second. Now delivers to Hale. He puts it out into center field. Paoli lets it bounce once, and the Boone Bigfoots will get another run in off an RBI single from Blake Hale. It was Tyson Bass scoring.
And that was a great read by Bass. And that time, Don Paoli tried to fake out Tyson Bass, but it doesn't really matter because the runner's running with 2 outs, so Bass able to score easily from second base. And it's now first and second once again, but with 1 more run in for Boone.
So it's Carlos Amasquita now for the Bigfoots. He's been walked twice in this game.
Boone has scored 8 runs, only 4 RBIs have been credited.
DeLello delivers as Amasquita puts that one foul into the concourse area here at Finch Field.
And I will say, I think Boone would try to double steal in this situation to put 2 more in scoring position, you would think, and save some of their arms.
After Amasquita will be the top of the order for the Bigfoots. Delivery from DeLello is put low, and the runners will advance. You've seen that now on a few occasions tonight. A ball that gets past the catcher, whether it was Gilliams or Astudillo, and runners able to advance.
It's been a struggle. There's no doubt about it. Pitching hasn't been extremely accurate today. Catching hasn't been super sharp. The hitting hasn't been there. It's just sort of an outlier game right now for the HiToms.
It's Max Weller at third, Blake Hale over at second. Sam DeLello dealing for the Tommies. Puts one in for Amasquita. He fouls it straight back.
DeLello is just trying to fight through, and he's putting some good pitches in, but Boone has been making some good contact in this inning on pitches that were, not super hittable pitches.
DeLello has Amasquita in a 1-2 count with 2 outs. Man on second and third for the Bigfoots. Delivery from DeLello is low for a ball. Twos across the scoreboards now and an 8-0 Bigfoot lead. DeLello puts in the 2-2. Swing and a miss by Amasquita, and that will end the top half of the 7th. 1 run does score for the Bigfoots. HiToms need to get to work here in the bottom of the 7th. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here at historic Finch Field, it's the bottom of the 7th, and Don Pololi will get things going. He was walked back in the 2nd and grounded out in the 4th. Sam Duffy still dealing for the Bigfoots. He's now at 80 pitches as he puts one in the strike zone, called for a strike on Pololi. Duffy kicks, delivers to Pololi, swing and a miss by him, and Pololi's behind 0-2.
And actually, he hasn't walked a batter since Jake Coonan. That was back in the 2nd inning, so really his command has been excellent.
Puts one on the outside there. So it's a 1-2 count, but after, a little shaky start in the first 2 innings where he was walking a few batters. But once that 3rd inning came around, he has been dominant, and the Bigfoots haven't needed to use their bullpen. Next one from Duffy is over to first. He tags the bag, and Don Pololi is out at first base. So up comes Dario Astudillo. He's subbed in for Mike Gilliams earlier in this one.
Now batting for the HiToms and catching number 22.
Yesterday, Dario was walked twice, had a base hit, and then he flew out and grounded out as well. So productive evening from him last night. HiToms could do with some productivity here as he looks at a pitch go high. Next one from Astudillo is put out into right field. It will bounce fair. And Dario Astudillo is over to first base on a base hit as he tramples back to first. It gets away, the throw, and Dario's able to get all the way to second. So some first piece of poor play we've seen from the Bigfoots as Tyson Bass threw one over to the first base, Caden Wagner, but it was way over Wagner's head. And the catcher, Blake Hale, was able to collect it near the Bigfoots dugout, which is all the way in left field. So it's a double for Dario Astudillo.
If that scored a double, I'll be surprised. Not
I'm sure there is an error there.
not with me scoring, at least, I'll say. It was a ball that went down the right field line, and then
it should have just been a base hit.
Tyler Bass just chucked it over to first base.
As Jake Coonan puts it into play, past the home plate, over to second, and the throw to first is in time, but Dario Astudillo is able to get over to third. So now there is 2 away for the top of the order for the HiToms.
I really thought that deflected off Sean Duffy, but maybe it didn't. It definitely felt like it slowed down a little bit coming off the mound and then behind the second base bag where Kyle Wagner threw it over to Caden.
So it's top of the order with Kane Kepley up. He looks at one that is called for a strike. Sam Duffy's got Dario Astudillo to worry about over at third. Duffy kicks, delivers, and it shoots low for a ball, so a 1-1 count with 2 outs and a Bigfoots 8-0 lead here in the bottom of the 7th. Here's the 1-1 on the way from Duffy, put on the outside again, so a 2-1 count now. Kane Kepley in this one has flown out twice and struck out. Check swing there is called for a strike, so it's a 2-2 count with 2 outs now in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, AJ, you want to explain what just happened?
No. It's a full count for Kane Kepley, though.
No, the nice wood slab just didn't hang on to the chair there. Heard a little bit of rumbling. It wasn't let's get ready to rumble, though.
Payoff pitch from Duffy is put into play by Kane Kepley. Dario Astudillo's around third. He will score, and Kane Kepley is safe at first. So it's now an 8-1 game here in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, great hustle by Kane Kepley. With 2 outs in the inning, he beats out the throw at first, and the HiToms are on the board. Kane Kepley has done damage against Boone, and that time it was just hustling out a ground ball.
Now batting for the HiToms.
So now Will Verdung up to bat. And 2 outs, and Kane Kepley over at first, and now an 8-1 game.
That was pretty interesting, AJ. I'll say.
What?
The recovery with play-by-play was excellent, though.
Duffy's delivery to Verdung is a swing and a miss by him.
It's like tripping in the outfield, but then still diving to make the catch. It's pretty much what you're doing in broadcasting terms.
Great analyzing from Adam Oppenheim on what occurred there, as Kane Kepley was able to get over to second. So Kane Kepley's at second with 2 outs, and a bit of adversity Sam Duffy's facing here with 2 outs in the bottom of the second. Didn't like the ball that he had in his hands, so he gets a new one. It's a 1-1 count for Will Verdung. Looks back at Kepley. Duffy delivers. Will Verdung puts one out to left field. Nadir Lewis is looking up. He's on the hill, and it is just foul.
Wow.
Nadir Lewis ran up that hill, and I think everyone here at Historic Finch Field thought Will Verdung had a home run, but as from our view, it looked like it just shot foul.
Yeah, it looked like it was going fair and just crossed in front of that foul pole. Plenty of distance. That would have been the second straight game with a home run against Boone for Verdung.
He loves playing against Boone Verdung. He's had great outings against them thus far this season. So he's back in the batter's box after he thought he had a 2-run home run there. Duffy looks back at Kane Kepley over at first. Delivers to Will Verdung, low on the outside. So it's a 2-2 count with 2 outs for Will Verdung, who just displayed he can hit a ball out of this park. Duffy delivers to Verdung, puts this one again out to left field. Nadir Lewis is running onto it, and again it's fouled. That one didn't have the distance as the previous foul ball, but gotta say Nadir Lewis has got to be alert with Will Verdung in the batter's box in left field.
And I think you got to stop throwing inside of Will Verdung. I mean, that ball was way inside, and he just hacks at it. It was like a line fly ball sort of in between, down the third base line and foul. But Verdung has just been turning on those inside pitches and trying to hit them into left field.
This season, Will Verdung has 3 home runs and 13 RBIs. He's been used at third base and the DH spot for the Tommies. He's in a 2-out situation here with Kane Kepley over at first. Duffy delivers the 2-2, and again it's hit foul by Will Verdung. So good at bat here from Will Verdung, working up that Duffy pitch count. Duffy takes a walk around the mound. Verdung takes a few steps out of the batter's box, readjusts his gloves, stretches out his fingers, picks up the bat. He's ready to go. So too is Sean Duffy. Duffy leans forward, gets a sign from his catcher Blake Hale. Looks back at Kane Kepley at second. He's got a lead there. Delivers to Verdung on the outside, so it's a full count now with 2 outs in an 8-1 game. An excellent at-bat here from Will Verdung. Thought he had a home run a few swings ago. Payoff pitch from Duffy is low, so 2 aboard now with 2 outs for the HiToms. And it'll be Dylan Lewis to step up to the plate. He subs in for Juan Correa. And now the Bigfoots will make a substitution of their own, and it will be the end of the night for Sean Duffy, who had a really strong outing. Kind of struggled once he got 2 outs. Well, he'll be pleased with his outing. But the HiToms are threatening. They got 2 on with 2 outs. New pitcher for the Bigfoots. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Back here at historic Finch Field, Boone Bigfoots protecting a 7-run lead as Dylan Lewis puts one foul. New pitcher for the Bigfoots, and Nate McKissick, making his 3rd appearance against the HiToms. Got an ERA of around 5. He's credited with 3 wins this year in 7 appearances. None of them start, so he's been used out of the Bigfoot's bullpen on all occasions. Delivers the next one to Lewis. It's put on the outside for a ball. Dylan Lewis took a scary hit yesterday to the shoulder, but thankfully he was all right and in the batter's box now. In a 1-1 count, he's got Kane Kepley over in a second. Wilverdung at first as another one goes on the outside. So it's 2-1 now with 2 outs for Dylan Lewis. And Nate McKissick now dealing for the Bigfoots. Kane Kepley's running, so too is Verdung. A swing and a miss by Dylan Lewis, but both runners are able to advance. So Kepley's over to 3rd, and Will Verdung's at 2nd.
And the HiToms, if they want to stay in this game, they need to knock in these 2 runs in scoring position. Cuts the lead to 5, which is doable if you still have the 8th and 9th left.
Next one to Lewis is hit up in the air. McKissick looks up onto it. So too is Vasquez, and he grabs it for the 3rd out. We will head to the 8th. The HiToms leave runners in scoring position, but they do get a run. It's 8-1. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. We welcome you back to historic Finch Field. Will Durrell will start things off in the top of the 8th for the Boone Bigfoots. They have an 8-1 lead, and it's a new pitcher for the Tommies, and Brody McFadden making his HiToms debut. He follows the same footsteps that the man he just relieved in Sam Durrell. And McFadden's first delivery goes low for a ball. McFadden out of Coastal Carolina. The 1-0 from McFadden is on the outside in the glove of Dario Astudillo. Two-0 count for Darrell, who's rocking the white helmet as McFadden deals to him. That one's hit off foul, so it's a 2-1 count. No outs, just starting the top of the 8th inning here at historic Finch Field. Darrell struck out his last time up. He actually struck out his last 2 times up, and he's flown out in innings 1 and 3. So looking to change that here as McFadden deals, and it's another ball. So 3-1 now goes the count for Will Darrell. McFadden gets the sign. Places the 3-1 on the outside corner, so Will Darrell is aboard via a walk. So up comes Kai Wagner, who, as I mentioned earlier, didn't follow the rest of his family going to northern Colorado. He's at Utah. Didn't see any game action his freshman year at Utah. He's going to factor in the Boone Bigfoots order this season as he looks at one called for a strike. Count goes 0-1 with Will Darrell over at first. McFadden deals to Wagner. That one curves on the outside, so 1-1 goes the count with no outs, and Will Darrell over at first base for the Bigfoots. McFadden deals. That one's called for a strike, so it's a 1-2 count now. Marty McFadden, the right-handed pitcher, 6'1", from Holly Springs, North Carolina. Went to Wake Christian Academy for high school. Making his first start for the HiToms, or first appearance, rather, for the Tommies. He deals to Wagner. Swing and a miss from him. So 1 away now for Jalen Vasquez, as Will Darrell still occupies first base for the Bigfoots. Jalen Vasquez has been walked in the 3rd and 5th inning. He grounded out back in the 6th. And he's really impressed over at shortstop today for the Bigfoots. Vasquez puts one in, and he looks at it, called for a strike. McFadden kicks, delivers. That one's hit off foul. Will Darrell still at first base for the Bigfoots. Vasquez ready to go for the 0-2. He's got 3 extra base hits on the year, 5 RBIs, 1 home run. Wild pitch there from McFadden that Dario Astudillo is able to grab, so the count goes to 1-2. Next one ready for McFadden in a 1-2 count with 1 out. He delivers with 1 on as Vasquez puts one foul, just foul. Very similar to Wilbur Dunk's hit, but this one out into right field. It just was touching in foul territory as Austin Deering had to be well aware. So Vasquez stays alive. And Darrell over at first. So McFadden still working on Jalen Vasquez. Been a good at-bat from him. He's fouled off a few pitches now. McFadden deals to Vasquez. He puts that one up into left field. Don Pololi's running onto it, and he will have a glove on it for the 2nd out. Up comes the cleanup man for the Bigfoots, and Nadir Lewis, who kept his hitting streak alive when he got a base hit back in the 7th inning. And he's got Will Durrell over at first.
I never would have gotten it because I never would have thought he played 2,000 games. He's right. He's like 2,000.
So Lewis steps in the batter's box. And McFadden will go to work on him. McFadden kicks, puts one low into the glove of Dario Astudillo. McFadden takes a walk off the mound, steps back on. Lewis is ready to go with Will Durrell over at first. Pitch from McFadden is again on the outside low. So Nadir Lewis in a hitter's count at 2-0. From McFadden, swing and a miss. Rather foul tip from Nadir Lewis, so either way it's a 2-1 count now. For the HiToms, they're going to enter a week where it's a bit of a lighter schedule, not the back-to-backs or home, away, home. They're going to have a home game on July 4th, and then July 6th they'll have another home game. Both those games will be at Truist Point to round off the City Connect series, and there'll be games in the East Division against the Chili Peppers and Sharks. As McFadden deals another one to Lewis, low for ball 3. But I think it will benefit those 2 days off in between those two games, and but for two teams that had strong first halves of the season in the middle pack of the East Division. McFadden kicks, deals. That one down the middle, called for a strike, so a full count on Nadir Lewis now. McFadden leads forward, gets a sign from Astudillo. Puts in the payoff pitch, swing and a miss by Nadir Lewis. Great work there from Brody McFadden in his HiToms debut to get Nadir Lewis out on strikes. HiToms bats will be back up in the bottom of the 8th. They trail 8-1. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. We welcome you back here to historic Finch Field. Austin Deering will kick off the bottom of the 8th inning for the HiToms. They trail 8-1 against the Boone Bigfoots. It's the third game in a row against the Bigfoots. HiToms took the one on Friday, lost last night, and are in a bit of a hole right now in the 8th, as it's still Nate McKissick dealing for the Bigfoots. It's only the Bigfoots' second pitcher used. Sam Duffy went 7 innings, and the HiToms have had to use 4 pitchers in this one, as Austin Deering is ahead 2-0 in the count. Two-one placed in by McKissick. Goes for another ball. So hitter's count now for Austin Deering. He was walked back in the first inning and then grounded out in the 3rd and 6th. And he gets walked on this occasion. So 1 aboard with no outs for the HiToms, and Jack Spike coming up to the dish.
He literally has been an all-star versus now up for the Tommies. The first baseman, number 29.
Jack Spike got a base hit his last time up. He's got no outs to work with here. McKissick deals to Spike. Down the middle, called for a strike. Spike check swings there, called for a strike, so he's behind 0-2 with Austin Deering over at first, and no outs in an 8-1 bottom of the 8th.
Cleveland just has like one hot batter at all times. Nobody can ever be hot at the same time. But there's always one guy.
As Kissick puts a nasty curveball that flies on the outside. That's how most of McKissick's deliveries are. Not too much leg movement. Just kind of deals it all from his arm, and each pitch, no matter what kind of pitch, has a little curve on it. Next one from McKissick is hit on by Jack Spike into the hands of Wagner. He throws to second, and it gets away as the HiToms are going to get a base hit there. And Jalen Vasquez, it was Kai Wagner's throw to Vasquez that got away from Jalen Vasquez and allowed Austin Deering to get all the way over to third and Jack Spike over at first.
Yeah, and I think with the 7-run cushion, you maybe just take the sure out at first. It was kind of a slow roller. Wagner didn't charge and then try to throw it really hard over to second base to get the lead runner. But the lead runner doesn't matter too much in a 7-run game.
So it's Andrew Fernandez now for the HiToms. He looks at one called for a strike, and they have men on the corners with no outs. It's Austin Deering at third and Jack Spike over at first. McKissick deals to Fernandez, puts it on the outside for a ball. Fernandez subbing in for J.D. Suarez in this one. Next one for McKissick, again, is put on the outside, so Fernandez goes ahead 2-1. McKissick fires in the 2-1, fouled off by Fernandez. Season Andrew Fernandez batting .208. He's been walked 7 times, has 2 RBIs in 24 at-bats. He's in a 2-2 count right now with Nate McKissick dealing for the Bigfoots. He puts another one on the outside, so it's a full count with men on the corners for the HiToms. Wilver Dung at third, or not Wilver Dung, rather. Austin Deering at third, Jack Spike over at first. Fernandez puts a high one out of play, goes foul into the Finch Field concourse. So he stays alive in a full count. McKissick took a brief look over at first. Deals the payoff pitch. It's fouled off again by Andrew Fernandez. Waiting in the wings for the HiToms is Don Pololi, as the umpire needed some new baseballs. Another payoff delivery from McKissick is hit on up in the air by Andrew Fernandez out into right field. Tyson Bass is running onto it, and he's able to grab it for the out. And there is a throw towards home, but Austin Deering not running home, making the wise decision there.
I mean, that was a cannon from Tyler Bass. First of all, he was coming in to catch the ball beautifully on the run and all his momentum towards home and right on the money to Hale on a strike. And Deering would have been out by a mile, so a good decision to hold him at third.
So it's Don Pololi now with 1 out. Men on the corner still for the HiToms. McKissick deals to Pololi. It's shot low for a ball. McKissick places the 1-0 into the bat of Pololi, but it is well foul into the grill area at Finch Field. Austin Deering is over at third base, and Jack Spike occupying first. Delivery from McKissick. Check swing from Pololi called for a strike, so he's behind 1-2 with 1 out in a Boone lead 8-1. McKissick fires in the 1-2, hit on by Don Pololi. Again, out to Tyson Bass in right field. He runs onto it. So too is Kai Wagner from second base. He makes the grab for the second out. So now 2 away. Still 2 men on for the HiToms. And it will be the catcher, Dario Astudillo, to come up. And he got a base hit his last time up, and that was a big help in getting the HiToms 1 run on the board. Astudillo's first look at a pitch is down the middle. A nasty curveball there from McKissick. 0-1 on Astudillo. Delivery from McKissick is a low. Gets away from Blake Hale, but he's able to collect it. Runners stay at their respective bases. Deering at third. Spike over at first. 1-1 count. 2 outs for Dario Astudillo. McKissick fires in the next one. Hit on by Dario Astudillo, but it's going to be foul out of play. Count remains at 1-2. McKissick takes a check over at Jack Spike at first. Delivers the 1 to Astudillo on the outside. So it's a 2-2 count with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 8th inning. HiToms will have tomorrow off before going to Truist Point for July 4th. Delivery from McKissick is again low. Astudillo a little frustrated there, but he's in a full count. Deering at third, Spike at first. Payoff pitch is a swing and a miss from Dario Astudillo. So HiToms leave runners on the corners. We will head to the 9th inning. It's the Boone Bigfoots 8, the HiToms 1. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. And we welcome you back to historic Finch Field in the last inning here between the HBT HiToms and Boone Bigfoots. Bigfoots have an 8-1 lead. It's Brody McFadden who made his HiToms debut in the 8th inning. He'll continue for another inning of work. He's in the middle part of that Bigfoots order with Caden Wagner. As McFadden deals to Wagner, down the middle, called for a strike.
That was a lot of movement on that pitch from Wagner. Sort of slings its way back into the middle of the plate.
Nobody on for the Bigfoots, just starting the top of the 9th. Wagner behind 0-1. McFadden tosses in the next delivery, nearly hits Wagner just on the outside, and it looks as though it did hit him. So he will be walked.
Yeah, that time McFadden threw, a similar spot they was spotting his breaking ball, but that time it was a fastball, so it's not going to move that much in more towards the plate.
Up comes Tyson Bass, who got a base hit back in the 7th inning. Goes to work on McFadden with Caden Wagner over at first and no outs in the top of the 9th. McFadden sets, deals to Bass, goes low for a ball. One-0 from McFadden is again curving down out of the strike zone, so it's a 2-0 count now for Tyson Bass. The 2-0 from McFadden is hit on by Tyson Bass out into left field. It is fair. Wagner's running around second. Bass is approaching second base. It's fumbled by Paloli out in left field. He gets it to Fernandez, and it is a double by Tyson Bass. It gets Caden Wagner all the way over to third, and Bass is at second. First extra base hit of the night from the Bigfoots in this bottom of the 9th.
That's for either team as well. Interesting stat there by David Katzenmeyer here in the broadcasting booth.
So it's Max Weller now up to bat with nobody out in this bottom of the 9th. Caden Wagner over at third. Tyson Bass at second. McFadden deals. Swing and a miss by Hall. Next one to Weller is in the dirt for a ball, so it's a 1-1 count now. McFadden takes his time preparing the 1-1. Nobody out, 2 on for the Bigfoots. McFadden deals, and it's high on the corner for ball 2. Weller from the belt puts it low. So 3-1 count now for Max Weller, as Brody McFadden is in his second inning of work now. McFadden deals to Weller on the outside. Bases are loaded for the Bigfoots in this top of the 9th with no outs. And Blake Hale stepping up to the plate. So no activity in the HiToms bullpen, so McFadden will have to work through this bases loaded jam with Blake Hale at the dish. The delivery from Hale is down the middle, called for a strike. So 0-1 on Blake Hale. 0-1 placed in, hit up in the air. Jake Coonin's got a read on it in the dirt. He now runs over to first and makes the grab for the first out. It's been a lot of pop flies in this one. The infield had to have been alert for the HiToms, and they've done a pretty good job. As it's Carlos Amasquita now, at the bottom of the order for the Bigfoots. He struck out his last time up. Bases still loaded for Boone. Caden Wagner's at third. Tyson Bass is at second. Max Weller's over at first. Infield is pulled in for the Tommies. McFadden deals. It's on the outside. Good grab there by Dario Astudillo, making sure that one didn't get away. One-0 from McFadden is down the middle, called for a strike. Amasquita was looking at that one. Amasquita leans back a little, gets ready for the next one. He swings and misses. Foul tip. So it's a 1-2 count for Brody McFadden. With one out, bases loaded for the Boone Bigfoots in this top of the ninth. They have a 7-run cushion on the HiToms. McFadden puts in the 1-2 on the outside. Count goes to 2-2. Amasquita was walked in the third and fourth inning. And he was able to score back in the third as well. Delivery from McFadden, swing and a miss by Amasquita, and he is retired on strike. So 2 outs now with the bases loaded for the Bigfoots.
Yeah, and a good battle back from McFadden. We saw it nearly in the bottom of the 10th yesterday. Brady Guthrie was in a bases loaded, no out situation. Got 2 outs, couldn't get the third, but now McFadden, even though it's a 7-run game, just trying for confidence reasons to get out of this inning.
Will Durrell, top of the order for the Bigfoots up.
And it's safe to say, you know, Boone's scoring has slowed down because the HiToms have stopped walking them consistently.
Yeah, really, I mean, it hasn't been a hitting exhibition from the Bigfoots at all in this one. It's more just been pass balls and walks from the HiToms as McFadden puts a ball in for Durrell.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the score is like 4-1 or something like that, but it being 8-1, you know, a decent amount of that is due to some free passes.
McFadden puts in the 1-0, and it's a swing and a miss from Durrell, so 1-1 count with 1 out. Bases loaded for the Bigfoots. Or rather, 2 outs. McFadden deals the next one, places it on the outside, so 2-1 count now for Will Durrell. Kai Wagner waits in the on-deck circle for Boone. 2-1 from McFadden. Swing and a miss by Durrell. So it's a level count at 2 with 2 outs in this top of the ninth. Bases loaded for the Bigfoots. Delivery from McFadden is hit into fair territory, collected by Jack Spike. He'll hustle over to first base to get the out and end this top of the ninth. HiToms bats will be up one more time in this one. You're listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network. Welcome back to historic Finch Field. Bottom of the ninth. HiToms have their last chance here against the Boone Bigfoots. They trail 8-1. Nate McKissick still dealing. He was in relief for the starter, Sean Duffy, and he's done really well as he puts one on the outside for Jake Coonan. But as we learned between innings, McKissick not throwing too fast.
No, but below 80, which is
As Coonan
wild.
puts one out into right field, it's collected by Tyson Bass for the first out.
But like I was saying, throwing a little bit below 80. Not usually the norm, but it's a location. It's sort of a submarine angle. And mostly just the accuracy of the pitches.
Now it's Kane Kepley up for the HiToms. He got the RBI back in the 7th inning. McKissick deals to Kepley on the outside for a ball. Next one from McKissick is hit on by Kane Kepley. Nadir Lewis is running onto it, but it is heading foul, and it lands in the Boone Bigfoots bullpen. So Kane Kepley stays alive at 1-1. McKissick deals to Kepley, swing and a miss by him. That one was on the outside. So 1-2 count now, 1 out. Bottom of the ninth for Kane Kepley. Next one from McKissick is hit on by Kane Kepley, out into shallow center field, collected by Nadir Lewis. He uses his speed to get all the way over from right field, or left field rather, to collect that one for the second out. So with 2 outs, it's Wilver Dung up. And the bottom of the ninth, HiToms, as I mentioned earlier, will have tomorrow off, and then they're back at Truist Point for July 4th. McKissick deals to Verdung. He looks at that one for a strike. McFadden puts in the 0-1, swinging and a miss by Will Verdung. He's behind 0-2 with 2 outs, nobody on for the HiToms. They trail 8-1 over the Boone Bigfoots. Bigfoot's next game, just like the HiToms, is on July 4th against the Forest City Owls, as Verdung puts that one in play, collected by Wagner at second. He throws over to first. It is not in time, so Will Verdung has a base hit with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning. So up comes Dylan Lewis, who subbed in for Juan Correa.
Now to the plate for the HiToms, number 6, Dylan Lewis.
Lewis swings and misses on his first offering from McKissick. Next one from McKissick is hit on by Dylan Lewis, out into right field for Tyson Bass. He reaches up, makes the catch. A good catch there from Tyson Bass as he collides with the wall, and it ends the game. The HiToms take 1 of 3 against the Boone Bigfoots. They fall today 8-1. Adam, any final thoughts on this series with Boone?
Well, it was the HiToms and walks that were killers, and Boone's going to make you pay because they're a really good hitting team. And that's what they did, having that big top of the 5th inning, and HiToms could never come back. They couldn't get the bats going. It was a really good start by Sean Duffy on the mound for the Bigfoots.
So that ends this one. The HiToms are back in action on July 4th. That is Tuesday against the Wilmington Sharks. That'll be at Truist Point. We'll be back on Flow Sports for that one as well. But for right now here at historic Finch Field, the HiToms fall to the Boone Bigfoots 8-1. For myself, AJ Myers, and Adam Oppenheim, we thank you for listening along, and that'll do it. The final score again, HiToms 1, Boone Bigfoots 8. You've been listening to HiToms Baseball on the HiToms Radio Network.